All right, and we are live. D&B Dealmakers, what is up? I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I'm your host, John, and we have a phenomenal guest today, Chris Craddock. And I think many people in the area here know Chris Craddock. He has a phenomenal web presence for someone who, doesn't have a full, social media team, someone who's kind of doing it himself. He's got a phenomenal web presence. And I think it's purely through just your organic business. And, we can kind of talk a little bit about that. But, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, man. So happy to be here. And glad we could hang. Sorry about the light in the background. We've got 6 kids on a weekend running around the house everywhere. So hopefully it's not too distracting for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's kind of become a normal thing now. It's kind of doing a web show within your own bedroom or a home office. So I think we're all kind of used to okay lighting. So
Fair enough.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know Chris, I think he's best known in the area for his realty business, actually, even though he is an investor and he actually does a lot of deals. But I think most people know Chris through his branding, through his realty company, Redux Realty, over in Keller Williams Reston. Is that what it's called? But I know it's in Reston. Is it called Keller Williams Reston?
Yeah, Keller Williams Reston, and
Gotcha.
yeah, our team is the Redux Group. Yeah, out of Keller,
Right.
W Reston. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And so I don't know if you're like the top or one of the top in Reston, but I know in Reston office it's really competitive because you got some heavy hitters out there. You got Rob Chavez team. You got what's that other guy's name? It starts with a Z. That might be his last name. I don't remember.
Ryan Zook.
Yeah. So definitely got some heavy hitters and even a lot of solo agents that are just really crushing it. A lot of them are actually on your team. I know Stefan's still out there, and Hughes as well. So really competitive office, and yet you've still been able to kind of build a brand and name for yourself. I think part of that is you being involved with the community and just the organic business you've done over the years. So why don't you talk a little bit about your background in terms of real estate? I know you've kind of had the full gambit, not just the realty retail side, but as well as investing as well. Why don't we crack a little bit into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you mentioned one of the big pieces there, as far as the success that we've been able to have is, right when we joined that Reston office, there were some other just big hitters that were out there, right? Like they're kicking butt, taking names, and just doing a lot of business. And just, I really believe that you're gonna be like the people you spend time with, right? You're gonna be like if people are doing more business than you and you're hanging out with them, you're gonna learn to do business like they do, because the first thing that an entrepreneur needs to do is like literally color by numbers, imitate other people, and then you innovate. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that most entrepreneurs have is they innovate too early. You want to imitate then innovate, and that's that whole thing. And hanging out with, like you mentioned, Rob. Rob is become one of my closest friends. And when I first started, like I would just go and hang out with him, understand how he thought and everything like that. And and then we've kind of really blown it out of the water. But part of it was just getting to be good buds with people like that, and good buds with other people that are doing more business. And then as that grows, you start masterminding with other people locally, and then start masterminding with other people, nationally, that are doing more business. So, over this last year, it's been really awesome because we've, in the last 3 years, we went from like doing about 80 million in volume to last year about 120, and this year we'll do about 160 million in volume. So like just kind of growing like that, not quite, almost not quite doubling every year, but like getting close to those ranges. It's all about having other people teaching you how to think bigger.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So you mentioned in the last year, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm kind of curious, what was it that you did exactly to make that huge jump?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, I realized that I was the bottleneck in a lot of the things that were going on. Everything was running through me, right? And when you when you go into business with good people, and that's one of the things that you realize is that you've got to, if you ever want to scale, you've got to not be the bottleneck. And so you've got to bring good people on, like amazing people on, and then help them accomplish their goals. Because I'll tell you what, you may think you're the best salesperson ever, and you may be, but the bottom line is, if you can teach other people to sell, like what I realized is, like on the first meeting I would go meet with somebody, I'm a darn good salesperson without like giving myself a high five, like I'm a good salesperson. I would close a lot of people, but I got so busy that my follow-up wasn't working well, right? So I wasn't following up well enough. And so my total close ratio wasn't as good as somebody that may not have the same skills that I have, but are able to follow up because they have more time in their calendar and create that system to do that. And so as I work to teach them how to close and then follow up, then their skills continue to get better and better. And I'll tell you what, man, then you get to be in business with some of the best people out there. And I really do believe that some of the folks on our team are some of the best salespeople you'll find. But they didn't start off that way. They had to get those opportunities and follow up, and then you can kind of start scaling. But if you don't give big opportunities to people, to people on your team, if they're high enough talent, they're going to leave because, at the end of the day, they can love you. They can think you're awesome. But as soon as they hit a glass ceiling in the organization you're in, high talent is going to struggle with being in a glass ceiling. They need to be able to grow. And so, that for me, one of the first thoughts that I have every morning when I wake up, because I know you asked me to kind of share about building a team and growing a team. One of the first thoughts that I have every morning is, how can I grow the world that I live in? Because if I don't grow that, these highly talented people that are with me are going to hit a glass ceiling and going to say, hey, I need to go somewhere else because I can't continue to grow in this world. It's like a fish bowl, right? Like fish will only grow to the size of their bowl. And these if you bring in big fish, they're going to start to feel cramped as they grow. You need to grow the size of that bowl.
100%. So I know probably most of our viewers here, we have all sorts of business owners, right? I mean, some people here have teams, some of them have, small teams, some of them, I would say most of them are probably solopreneurs at this point. Sure. I know you kind of started at that point as well. You're a solopreneur. And if I recall, I think you started your business just simply by door knocking for pre-foreclosures or tax delinquents. Can you talk a little bit about that journey right there? Because I feel like a lot of our viewers here are just kind of always in that purgatory state where you're just stuck as a solopreneur, whether they pick up traction in their business or not. A lot of people just kind of stay stuck there. I know some people enjoy doing that work, but if I had to bet, a lot of people want to grow a team and, make some progression in their business. And can you talk a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'll share step one and step two. It's very everybody's looking for the magic bullet. My wife and I were talking, she's a writer, and we were talking about writing a book, calling it There's no magic bullet. But then we're like, nobody would buy that book because everybody wants the magic bullet.
Yeah.
Maybe we're like, here's the silver bullet, the magic pill to succeed. And then chapter one is there's no magic pill. But that's the whole idea. So I graduated from college in 2000, got married. And I went on staff with an organization called Young Life. I loved it. Changed my life. It was incredible. But, I made $20,000 a year from Young Life, which was awesome. But when you make $20,000 a year, what I can tell you is in the DC area, it doesn't work. And so I went to the library, checked out every book on real estate investing that I could find, because, just as a little side note, winning in any business here requires activity and skill, right? Like those are the two things, activity and skill. So I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna read all these books and try to skill up a little bit. And then I read them and they're like, hey, go talk to distressed sellers. And so I just found everybody that was going up for auction locally, and I went and knocked on their doors, right? So that's my activity. And I didn't know what I was doing, right? I always say this. perfect or imperfect action trumps perfect action any day of the week. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction any day of the week. So I just started knocking on doors. And the crazy thing that happened was in about 4 months, I made about 12 times what I made in a year on Young Love Staff. I see all these guys saying, "What's up?" Hey guys. Anyway, yeah. So that's the big thing. I just started knocking on doors, and people said yes. And honestly, if I knew more at the time, I would know that, man, I just didn't know enough, but I didn't care. I was just going to go and do it and figure it out and make it happen. And so like, there were all these ways that I could have gotten hurt bad. But again, I'm just like, go out and do it. And so I did that, and it was good. And then I continued doing ministry, kind of backed away from the real estate for a while. And in the early, like 2011, I think it was, I kind of got back into real estate, into the investing world, just because I've got 6 kids, and anybody with 6 kids in the DC area knows that your money disappears fast. Kids, and then times that by 6. And so what we did was I went back out, and like I was doing everything to make ends meet while doing ministry stuff, and I started flipping houses again. And at that time, all the deals that I used to find, because stuff changed, they all were short sales. So I started signing up short sales and was able to flip them. And I realized the bank was paying a real estate agent commission. So I got licensed to get paid the commission. And since then, they've changed their analytics. So you can't really flip short sales like you used to. Every once in a while you can, but not like it was. And so I got licensed. And, during that time, I had always led really massive amounts of people doing ministry, like volunteer teams and whatnot. And so I'd gone back to school, and I got my doctorate in leadership. Wow. It's something that I really, really love, helping people accomplish their goals. And I realized in ministry, I always had the Zig Ziglar model, which is you can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And so when I read Gary Keller's book about like growing a team in real estate, I'm like, well, man, I've been helping people make wise decisions. That's what I've done in ministry for years. Now, real estate, anybody that does residential real estate knows that it's probably about 80% being a psychiatrist or psychologist and about 20% actually selling real estate. And so I was like, this is great. I'm just helping people make wise financial decisions, and all the other decisions kind of flow into it. And then we kind of built out a team around that, which is like the people that make the most money in the world are the ones that help the most people and solve the most people's problems. So that was kind of that idea. And then we just started building out the team from there, finding other good people that kind of had the same cultural values, the same mindset. And I'll tell you, we picked some good people early on. And then Jim Collins refers to this as the hubris born of success in the book, How the Mighty Fall. So we started doing well. Then we thought that we had the Midas touch and that anybody we brought in would succeed and do well and all the other stuff. And you realize that that's just not true at all. One of a mentor to me said this, it's hard to be a great leader of marginal people. And so it's like, you see that. And if people don't want to win, if you rip it open their chest and they don't have a heart of a lion that wants to win inside, it's really hard to help them succeed. So that's when we really started looking and nailed down the 4 things that we look for in people we want to be in business with. 1, happy, because if they're not happy with you, if they're not happy where they were, it's just a matter of time before they're not happy with you, because wherever they go, there you are, right? That's it. Hungry, like if you're hungry and you've got that fire inside, you throw gasoline on it with the right systems and profiles and like all the other pieces, and that fire will just blow up. But if you don't have that fire inside, you throw gasoline, you just get a wet spot, right? Like who wants that? Humble, so happy, hungry, humble. They need to learn from you, from those around them, not believe that, like I'll tell you, all the people that say I learned from the school of hard knocks, I learned from I got to learn myself, that's foolishness. That's just straight stupidity, right? That is the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom is saying, who is smarter than me in this this area, and how can I compress the decades of learning that they've done into days, right? So compress the decades into days and like sit at their feet and understand that there's also false humility. And you can interrupt me anytime. I feel like I'm dialoguing. So or monologuing. So yeah. So there's also false humility, and false humility is if I were to say to you, John, you got to change this, and you're like, yeah, you're right, and then you don't do anything about it. Like that's false humility. Versus, you'll see like real humility. I can say, John, you got to change this, and you'll dialogue and kind of argue a little bit and all this stuff. But then when you realize the truth of it, you change, right? Because all of us, if we believed it was right, we would do it already, right? Like so the reality is, like humility is saying, I'm going to learn from people that are better than me in that area. So happy, hungry, humble. And the last one is smart. And it's not just about a high IQ. It's also about a high EQ, emotional intelligence. Can you relate with people? Can you read the room? Can you read what people are saying and talking and like really understand so that you can empathize with them and help them get what you want? And the one, I don't want to get political here. He's not like my favorite politician, but I think he's one of the best politicians that's ever lived. Bill Clinton, I'll tell you, one of his town hall meetings, this lady was like really upset about everything. And Bill Clinton's response was, I feel your pain. That was a terrible Bill Clinton impersonation, by the way. But he's like, I feel your pain. And that was that whole thing. Like all of America was like, man, he feels my pain, like that EQ, empathy kind of thing is just really important to be able to understand that in people that you're in business with. Because if they can't read people, if they can't read the room, then it's really hard to be successful in a people business. And all of this is a relationship business if you're going to scale something. So anyway, that's a lot of talking. And I'm sorry, I think I just went for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes on that.
No, that's really good content. What do you think are some of the pitfalls that people make when they're making their first maybe couple hires, or maybe even just like a JV partnership where they're just, kind of dabbling into expanding? What would you say is kind of the biggest mistake people make?
Well, so like the NFL, right? We're all like, we're in the DC area, Washington football team, right? You see that. And like, think about the draft, right? Those that draft, like there's two ways to draft. One is drafting for a need, and one is drafting for the best possible player on the board, right? And so I think one of the things that people will do is they'll draft lower level talent for a need. And what I've just found is this: your future is going to be dictated by the people you choose to run with, like 100%. Like 1,000%. Your future is going to be dictated by the people you choose to run with. So when you're looking to scale your team, don't settle. And that's a place where I've learned the hard way, and I've also learned the right way, right? Like the people, when I've chosen to be in business with awesome, amazing people, like it has transformed my business, and honestly, it's transformed my life in those areas. But I will also say this: you will not attract people that are amazing if you are not leveling up yourself. Because no high talent person is going to want to follow or be in the world of somebody that they don't believe is learning and growing at a fast pace, right? And so Sir Arthur Conan Doyle said this, one of my favorite quotes. He says, mediocrity knows nothing greater than itself, but talent instantly recognizes genius, right? Mediocrity knows nothing greater than itself, but talent instantly recognizes genius. And so if you are not leveling up to be that person, then high talent people are not going to want to be in business with you. Mediocre people, they don't know anything better than themselves, right? And they're happy to be in business there. But that's not who you want to be in business with, because it's not going to change your business and it's not going to change your life.
100%. I think that's really good. Just kind of waiting it out for the right person to partner with, rather than just, find someone mediocre just to band-aid an issue, right?
Right.
Although I think sometimes you do need to, take these incremental steps. You might have to bring someone on temporarily just to fulfill a need. But I think it's really good advice there for the long term.
And one of the things that I recognize that I've been slightly hypocritical in what I said, where at the beginning, imperfect action, versus perfect inaction, right? And then saying, don't settle, right? I understand that there's a paradox there. But what I will also say is this, the harder you work on yourself to level up and to be excellent and to be, as John Maxwell talks about, a level 5 leader, the harder you work on yourself. And you hear me quoting all these books, because, I'm trying to always grow, and I have all these mentors I've never met. Right. And so I'm just always taking in information. And so the reality is, you're going to attract like a magnet who you are. And so if you're somebody who's growing and somebody that's always leveling up, you're going to attract people like that. But culturally, if you're not that, you're not going to attract those people. So you won't have the fishing pool of people that want to be in business with you, that want to run with you, unless you're doing those things to level up.
100%. I like what you said about these mentors that you essentially never had. These basically these authors of these books that we've all read. It's interesting because I think most people just simply don't read enough.
Yeah.
They wonder why, they're, kind of struggling in certain areas of their lives. The way I see books is, like you said, they're basically just mentors you've never met, let's just say, everyone knows Tony Robbins, right? I mean, not everyone can get mentored by Tony Robbins. I think he charges like $1 million a year, and there's like a wait list or something. And I think that includes like 3 phone calls in a year for $1 million, which is kind of
$1 per hour. I'll tell you that much, brother. You need to get that.
Yeah, but I mean, the next best thing is just either going to a seminar or just buying the book, And I've seen like Tony Robbins' book at like a thrift store for like $1, literally $1. You can get that book, and I mean, it's just pure gold with some of these books. There's just so much content. It's especially with good business figures, business gurus. Sort of, I would say towards the end of their life, most people just want to help people. They just want to tell you everything they know, and they do it in the form of a book. And I think we're moving into a future where, books are kind of, I don't want to say they're becoming antiquated. I mean, there's other mediums for transferring knowledge, but books have just always been kind of that basic cornerstone for absorbing knowledge, and, obviously if you can't be mentored by Bill Gates, the next best thing you do is buy Bill Gates's book. And he may not tell you the right steps, step A, step B, step C, but he's going to give you a framework of how he thinks, how he sees the world. You just get a little glimpse of it. And I think that goes a long way, even though it's not giving you step A, B, and C. And to be honest, I think that framework is probably a lot more important because you kind of get the vibe of the person, how they think, how they carry themselves, rather than telling you or just feeding you, hey, do this and then do that, right?
One of my first mentors was Zig Ziglar. I've literally listened to or read everything he's ever written. I wish I would have been able to meet him before he passed, but literally, he's probably one of the most influential people in my life. Just because from the early 2000s, like he was just somebody I would always listen to and always like read. And I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved it, but I never met him. And, and so that's the thing. Like, I've heard this before, in this era, the information era, we get to choose our prophets, right? And so you can listen to everybody. Or I was just actually having kind of a mini coaching conversation with one of the guys on our team earlier today, where I was like, listen, at the beginning of your career, you need to just immerse yourself. And I was like, listen to podcasts, listen to webinars, just immerse yourself with everything real estate, right? And then you've got to go, like, once you got so much information, then you go to the next level and you start picking you get your master's degree. First, you get your bachelor's, which is like lots of hours, 10,000 hours of content just downloaded into your mind. And then you go to that master's level where you decide what types of things you want to really understand, right? Like maybe it's distressed sales, and maybe it's like people up for auction, maybe it's short sales, whatever it is, but like understand all of those things. And then the next level is like that doctorate, where you start picking the people that you really love their vibe, that are world class, and you just, everything they put out, you listen to everything that they have, right? Instead of like, hey, I want to learn about like going after for sale by owners and trying to, flip them into deals. I want to, and now I'm going to listen to, tax liens. And now I'm going to listen to, and now I'm going to, like all the different things. You start listening to certain people that will like absolutely chain you because when you're learning, it's about emulation. But when you get to mastery, it's about learning to think differently, because then you can innovate because you already have that base of knowledge, and then your mind will actually, be able to take what you've already learned and innovate it on it. And the last thing I'll say with this, like I mentioned, my wife is a writer, right? So she said, she would talk about this. She said that people that were no good at writing would break the rules of writing, and that's why they were terrible. But she said the best writers in the world will also break the rules of writing, but they know the rules, so they know how to break them in a way that's good and innovative and exciting. And so that's the difference between what low-level entrepreneurs and high-level entrepreneurs do through innovation. If they don't know, they don't have the base of information, and they try to break the rules, they're going to crash and burn. But once you have that base of information, that base of knowledge, then you can break the rules because you know the rules. And that's where lightning in a bottle happens.
I think that's an elevation paradigm. We all start at a lower paradigm, and we're confined by these rules. And I think they'll bring you some success. They'll navigate you through success within that paradigm. But once you elevate, you realize there is no paradigm. It's just a blank slate. You can do whatever you want, but you have to be aware of these lower paradigms that you're sort of ninjaing through at the same time, right? So that goes really deep. I really like that. So I know you're heavily involved in coaching as well. And I'm kind of curious, you've got a team that I think there's, a few people that have been on your team for a while. You obviously have a long relationship with them. I'm kind of curious, for people that are starting perhaps a new team, what are some good ways that, how do you deal with giving people honest feedback? Because, I think a lot of times you try to help someone, right? As a coach, you try to help someone by trying to shed some light on perhaps their blind spots. And, I know it can be kind of a fickle way or it could be a hard thing to do, because you don't want to offend them. You don't want them to feel like you're attacking their character at any point, right? Because, we often, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, how do you give honest feedback? Because, you don't want them to feel like you're attacking their character in any way. But at the same time, you're telling them this because you want them to do better, and you feel like they can be better if they just notice that blind spot, right? How do you navigate through that?
No, that's a great point. I mean, like I said, I'm a Christian guy, which doesn't mean that I'm perfect. Spend 5 minutes with me and you'll be able to pick apart lots of pieces of my life. So there's no doubt there. But what I will say, the reason I said that is because of the fact that, I'll read my Bible, and in the Bible, there's this verse that says this: the wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of an enemy, right? The wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of an enemy. And that's one of the things that I found in my life, is that people that want to tell you all the things that you want to hear are never going to help you become the person you want to become. Because I think if everybody that's listening to this right now could raise their hand, and I say, who here is the man or the woman that you want to become? I don't think anybody will raise their hand, because I don't think anybody's arrived yet, right? We're all in the process of arriving, right? We're all in the process of becoming that person we want to be. And the reality is, I think the best in the world have, they can understand, they can have, I'm losing my mind here. They can understand who they are. Like they see who they are, they can understand it. But the reality is, we oftentimes don't know what we don't know. So in our leadership team meeting last Thursday, we were talking through, we do from EOS Traction. We're working on doing the level 10 meeting, which if you've never done that with your organization, just YouTube it, level 10 meeting. It's really, really powerful. But we're doing the level 10 meeting, and with it, one of the things we talk about issues that cropped up, and then we're like, are there any issues we don't know about? And one of the things I said was, I'm like, I think we've got a good handle on the issues here. But one of the things that is the biggest problem is we oftentimes don't know what we don't know. So I would really love for us to just think through if there's issues here that that we're not discussing. Like, I wanted people to like actually dive deep on it. With that said, again, one other thing too is right now for our team, we're reading the book, The Art of Learning. And if you've never read that book, it's so powerful. It's a guy that literally became the best in the world at chess. And then he went on and became the best in the world at push hands. Okay. Which, martial arts, anyway, category. So bottom line is, one of the things he says is like, if you didn't make the same mistake twice, in a matter of months, you could be world-class, best in the world. But the problem is we make the same mistakes over and over again, and we don't understand those mistakes, right? We don't understand I made that mistake because, like, let's say you go on an appointment and the seller decides not to work with you, right? But they work with somebody else. So here's the thing I always do, like when I'm teaching sales training to my team, I say, okay, if you had Groundhog Day, right? If you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, where like the day just starts over every single day until he gets it right. If you had Groundhog Day and had that appointment 100 times, 1,000 times until they signed with you, could you have figured out a way that you walk out with the deal? And almost everybody says, if they're going to sell, yes. If I had to do over 1,000 times, I would have figured out a way to walk away with the deal. But most of us don't examine our lives and don't examine the things that we're doing to do that. So back to your original question, and I'm sorry I answered it in a long way. How do you say the hard things? One, they got to know that you're for them, that you love them, that you care about them, and you're not just throwing bombs in their life and saying, hey, you suck, fix this, right? Because nobody wants to hear that, right? So they need to know that you love, care for them, and want their best and have their best interest at heart. When they know that, you can say anything to them. They may be pissed off and they may not like it, but they know that you care about them and they know that you want what's best for them.
100%.
Probably could have said the last sentence and skipped all the other stuff. So sorry about that.
No, it's good to give that context. Yeah. No, that's really awesome. So I'm kind of curious, where do you plan on taking all this?
Well, I love, right now our team is doing awesome here. I mean, literally we doubled in the last 3 years. And I think right now we're part of KW. We're number 20 in all of KW out of 200,000 agents. So that's awesome. I do believe that, we'd like to go outside of this area. We'd like to scale outside of this area. I was actually just talking to a buddy of mine who we do a lot of business with about, scaling into some other areas together. So that's kind of fun talking through some of that. Personally, I love teaching and coaching. I mean, like I said, I got my doctorate in leadership and I love helping people. It's one of the things that brings the most joy to my life is seeing other people succeed. And like the Zig Ziglar thing, right? I can have everything I want in my life. Like there's nothing I can't have that is exciting in my life if I help all the other people around me get what they want in their life. So that's the exciting part as I'm looking to grow. I want to be able to help more people. And through that, that's where I see like expansion outside of here.
Gotcha. So the expansion model. I know you're helping a small team in Richmond, or you have a team in Richmond. Is that what it was?
Yeah, we have a team in Richmond as well. And that's, they're great down there. Yeah. Some great people. And yeah, it's awesome.
How do you pick and choose what areas you're branching out to?
Well, Richmond, we got some great people down there, and that was just an area we had a lot of business that goes back and forth. And full disclosure, we expanded to a couple other areas early on, probably before we were ready. And go back to the hubris born of success. We had a lot of success in Richmond, so we're like, we can expand everywhere and be successful. And so then we tried to expand to other places, and we lost money and it shut down and didn't. So that was, so now it's about two things. One, we need to have the right, economic indicators, the right things going on that make it make sense for us to be there. And two, we need to have the right partners, because again, if, it's hard to be a great leader of marginal people. If you don't have the right people in place, it is really, really, really hard to grow something together. And I'll say this too, Gary Keller, I think I'm really blessed to be part of his small group. And I remember him sitting there like one of the most powerful, poignant things he ever said. We were sitting there in a group, like there was probably about 100 people in the room. And he was sitting in the front and he's like, hey guys, you want to know why I'm sitting up here as a billionaire and you guys are just down there as multimillionaires? And everybody's like, dang, that's like that's a rough like that's like such an audacious thing to say, right? And so but I'm like, well, dang, if somebody says that, I'm gonna listen. And so I just listened. And so one of the things that he this is what he said. He's like, because, like, direct quote from him, he's like, I will kick all of your asses when it comes to hiring. That's what he said. Direct quote. That's it. Like, he chooses better people to be in business with than the rest of us. And if we were able to choose better people, then our life will be better. And so when I think about expansion, I think that's got to be like one of the main things.
Wow, that's I think that's a really good truth of life, to be honest, whether it's business or personal relationships. I think that's
relationships have made our lives better or worse, right?
Yeah. But also, I think the way that Gary Keller said it was in a very direct way, which kind of went back to what I was saying before. You know, do you give direct feedback, or you just kind of tiptoe around what you're trying to say? I think it was very direct, but he also has, you know, obviously the people he's speaking to, he knows they're already leaders, right? So the people that, you know, such as you're able to take that direct feedback, and maybe that statement will burn a little bit, but it'll kind of motivate you to kind of step up, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It definitely burns, because I know that it's true. I know that it's true. I have hired some amazing people and I've hired some terrible people. And that's just it, you know, and sometimes I get PTSD about the hiring process, because I've been in business with people where I'm like, why did I make that decision? But I mean, that's part of growth. The real question is, you know, are we going to pay the stupid tax, which means, are we going to make the same mistake more than once, or are we going to learn from that mistake and make the next decision that we make? Are we going to make it better?
100%. Yeah, I know you're a man of faith, but, you know, I feel like every day we come across some sort of obstacle or a mistake, it's always a learning experience, you know, and I think that's the way you got to look at it. Even though it may suck at the time, but you got to be able to put yourself in that third person perspective, and be like, okay, that was definitely something I had to go through. Otherwise I wouldn't have learned next time for the big show. You know, everything's preparing for the big show. That's the way I see things. You know, every single obstacle you come across, every challenge, it's just preparing you for the big show. Because I mean, you know, I know 5 years from now, we're all going to be doing more business. We're all going to be in a different level. And without this little, you know, nuisance of what might be just a little, you know, annoyance, you wouldn't have built the character to do that for the big show, you know, 5 years from now, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Furman Blue says he just applied with the Man of God's on his website. What is he referring to?
I'm not sure exactly, but
okay, I thought maybe it was in reference to something Gary Keller said, or maybe that group you're part of.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Let's talk a little bit about your investing, because I think you know, your brand is built around your realty business, obviously on the retail side, but I know you're also doing a lot of stuff when it comes to investing as well, whether it's wholesaling or fix and flip. You know, I know your brother is a general contractor, so that's a huge advantage that, you know, you guys have. It's getting stuff done in-house, you know, in-house cost. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, I mean, I own 8 different businesses, and so that's, you know, kind of that piece, all in the real estate world. And so, you know, as I look at it, I think it's really important for us to just scale each of those businesses. So yeah, my brother does a lot of, you know, he's a contractor. We have a construction company that mainly does condo conversions for investors in DC. So like, we actually just run those projects, you know, and does mainly high-end stuff, but we also do some of our own condo conversions there as well. So we're finishing one over on Orin right now. Just like, anyway, we like just do our own deals there too. So that's one of the big pieces there. But at the end of the day, this is my whole thought. I love wholesaling. I love fix and flip. I love all that. I think it's a great, great thing. But just remember, that's still a job, right? It's still a job. You're getting paid for transactions. The real key, in my opinion, to wealth building is buying property that you own. That's an asset that pays you residually, right? It pays you year over year over year. And that's something that gets better. So, that to me is one of those things that I think everybody needs to really, really, really understand and level up the way they think, because everybody thinks, oh, this is investing. And yeah, it is investing, but it's still trading time for dollars unless you have a business that runs itself that you are not involved in. The real difference, if you ever want to get wealthy, it's owning assets and owning things that will then create mailbox money for you, right? Cash flow that shows up every month. And so for me, I'll just tell you one of my goals, and I understand leverage. I understand it at a high level. So everybody that wants to push back on this and everybody that wants to say all the other stuff about it, that's fine. But by the time I'm 50, I want to own $13 million of paid off real estate that after paying somebody else to manage it for me, after paying somebody else to fix it up for me, and after paying vacancies, I know that I will net $1 million a year as an asset, an annuity that just pays $1 million a year over and over and over and over again. So that's my goal right there. I think that that's probably one of the most powerful tools that we can have because we're real estate professionals, right? You know, keep the best and flip and wholesale the rest, right? Like keep that. So that's my take.
Gotcha. Yeah, 100%. I think it's really interesting that there was just kind of this blanket term of a real estate investor, right? You know, fix and flippers and wholesalers are the real estate investors. And like you said, it's not actually investing. You're doing an income activity. That's your day-to-day income. It's essentially your job. You know, I'd say it's a high-paying job, but it's still just a job. You know, if you get hit by a bus, that stops. You know.
Everybody has their own take on Robert Kiyosaki, but I'll tell you, Rich Dad Poor Dad helped change and influence and shape my life. So say whatever you want, but like the information was so powerful to me. But you look at the different quadrants, like when you can start putting money in and and also this is from The Richest Man in Babylon as well, which I'll say, if you've never read Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you've never read Richest Man in Babylon, if you've never read Think and Grow Rich, you don't deserve to be wealthy. I'll just say that. like boom, hard truth, right? Those are books that you have to read if you want to be wealthy. But one of the things they talk about in Richest Man in Babylon is your money is like an army. You need to send it out and it needs to come back with the spoils of war that's bigger. If it loses the battle, that's terrible. Warren Buffett's number one rule in investing: don't lose money, right? So that's that whole thing is when you can take your money and send it out there, buy property, buy things that will cash flow, that will grow in value, that will grow with equity, that will, and here's the other one, one of the favorite books I've read in the last year is called Tax-Free Wealth. Like, you don't have to be that smart if you can like save a lot of money on your taxes. Like, man, that's huge. That's huge. Like, because all of a sudden an investment that's not amazing, if you're able to knock off anywhere from 25 to 37%, that you would normally pay to the government and be able to keep that money because the government incentivizes you to buy housing for people to live in, then all of a sudden an investment that wasn't amazing becomes an amazing investment when you have another 37 cents on every dollar that's a new margin for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the tax benefits are phenomenal, you know. I think oftentimes the media, they like to attack these business owners who quote unquote aren't paying taxes, right? You know, Trump hasn't paid his tax, or Jeff Bezos doesn't pay anything in taxes, right? And I know what they're doing. You know, they're trying to trigger something, right? Because they know when they write these articles, most people that are working 9 to 5, they don't understand that these are the same tax codes that you can do as well. You know, you can do that as well. It's fair game. Like, everyone can do that, and it's there. And I think I might have heard this from Robert Kiyosaki, or maybe it was like his wife or something on a podcast. They said the government like to give subsidies for services that they can't provide, right? So they can't provide all these housings. Therefore, they depend on investors to, buy them up and, fix them up, make great looking communities. And they'll give them tax incentives because that's a service that we all need as a community, but the government isn't able to do that. Therefore, they give these investors, incentives to do that, right? So I think that's an interesting take on, these tax benefits, because I think oftentimes people just kind of get this negative idea. Oh, you get to cheat your taxes, or I mean, you're not really cheating taxes. It's there for you to use. They want you to do that, right?
Well, I'll just say this. I mean, the Trump thing, and I'm not here to like defend Trump or anything like that, but I do want to defend this one piece here, which everybody that says he only paid $750 in taxes or whatever it was, like anybody that was running with that doesn't understand business taxes at a decent level. They don't understand. He didn't just pay that. They don't understand rollover losses. Don't understand corporate taxes versus personal taxes. They just don't understand. And therefore they're throwing out stuff that they don't understand. So one, they haven't done that, which I'll tell you, I am not an expert, but that's where I've spent a lot of time over this last year, because, it used to be only top line, but now I'm working on raising my top line, but I also want to raise my bottom line. And the best way to raise your bottom line is to understand what the tax code rewards. And if you can do that in a way that you can pay less taxes, boom, you're in a much, much better place. So I just would throw that out there, that is so important. The other thing is, let me throw this out there, because this is something that I learned about probably about a year ago, and we just used it in our last year's taxes. So anybody that's a real estate professional that is, that means that you spend over 725 hours a year, I believe, in real estate. It doesn't mean you're an agent, just over 725 hours a year, can do something called a cost segregation analysis on single family homes for less than $500, right? Like it's just crazy. And what you can do is, instead of taking depreciation that you can write off over 27 and a half years, you can write off all of that in year one at a very cheap rate. So apartment multi-units do this all the time, and it's expensive. It's really expensive. And it was way too expensive for us to do on single family homes. But after the tax code change in 2017, you were able to do they're able to do it from the desktop now if the structure itself is worth less than $500,000. So I did that on one of our rental properties last year, and ended up saving $24,000 in my 2019 taxes by just writing that off like a one-time hit, 24 grand, which, I could either write it off over 27 and a half years, but anybody knows anything about money, one, cash is king, and two, present day value of money is much better than future value of money.
Right. Wow, that's phenomenal. I think when you're getting into taxes, that's a whole new game you got to start looking into. If you have any good tax people, I'd love for you to refer any if you got any.
I've got a great guy. He's expensive as all get out. I'll tell you, last year he saved me a fortune, and I started working with him too late, because he was just like, man, you've got tens of thousands of dollars that you're paying to the government that you don't need to pay to the government, but it just takes a while to get that going. So anyway, but yeah, I'll be happy to throw that out there. I might even be able to get him to come on and be interviewed by you guys here on a deal makers webinar at some point. He's out on the West Coast, I believe, but
okay,
we're good. One of the best. And I'll tell you, most tax people, the crazy thing about most tax people is you spend all this money and you get nothing more than like a glorified H&R Block. So people that will actually sit down with you and strategize and show you, okay, take your LLC, turn it into an S Corp so that you're not paying payroll taxes on it. And I say that, and like some people are like, of course, but like for me, that was new, like I didn't realize that by switching how that goes in, you can save a lot of money on taxes in a lot of different situations.
Right. I think that can benefit a lot of people. And to be fair, I've never sat down with a tax person to kind of crunch these scenarios to see whether it's beneficial or not. So yeah, definitely like to connect with someone you can refer to. So Furman says, Chris, I applied to your REI Revive program you offered. I think it was referring to the statement we made before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, Furman. I would love to connect. I'd love to connect.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, we're coming up here for an hour here. So it's been great chatting with you. I'm kind of curious, is there anything we can do to help you with your business, whether it's investing or whether it's on the retail side? Is there anything we can do, or is there anything that you can offer for people here, for the viewers?
Yeah. I mean, what I would just say is this, if anybody wants to go to my website, chriscraddock.com, I have a millionaire reading list, which is kind of, in my opinion, some of the books that are like irreducible minimums for anybody who wants to win in the financial sector, needs to read these books to rethink on, how you see life. So you can sign up there. And it's free, no cost or anything like that. I just want to add value. Yeah, I mean, other than that, obviously I'm always looking to be in business with like high level people. So if somebody's looking for other opportunities, I'd love to connect. I don't even know what they would look like, but I've just found that anytime I can connect with high level people that might want to be in business together on someplace that ends up changing both of our lives. So happy to have conversations on that front. But other than that, I just wanted to add value and help here. And I just know that the more you give, the more you receive. And so, I just want to give. I don't really have anything I'm looking for right now, but if I can help anybody, serve anybody, anything like that, please let me know. And I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. Furman says he's going to be joining your reading list here tonight. Is this like a club? Is this like a mastermind of some sort, or?
No, it's just my reading list. It's just a book that have meant a lot to me, that I think anybody that wants to level up the way they see investing, the way they see money, the way they see life and business, that they need to read. So I put that in there. Furman, the man, I love him. He's awesome.
Yeah, that reminds me. I think, so Tai Lopez, right? The internet guru guy.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he kind of got big from pitching his whole, his 150 book list or whatever. I think right now he turned that into a business, and I think he's got the largest book club in the world right behind Oprah Winfrey. Isn't that wild?
Wow. That's awesome. That's it. See, that's the cool thing. You hang out with enough people and like new ideas just spark and flow from that, and honestly, the cool thing is, you just add value to people, and you reap what you sow in life, right? Like if you just give to people and just are like, see the world in an abundance mindset, it all comes back to you in relationships and value, like as you serve others. So I love it, brother.
Yeah, good stuff. I really like the vibe, Chris. I think your attitude, the vibe you put out, it always comes back. You start attracting the right people, you start attracting the right opportunities, and you're definitely a guy that's always walking around with a smile on his face and always willing to share things. That's what I like about you. So, but yeah, we should definitely catch up. I know it's been a while since we've done some business together, but I'd love to catch up here at some point and see if we can do something.
That'd be great, bro.
Yeah. But I hope all the viewers here got something out of this episode. I just certainly did. I think it's always really good being around high vibe people, just people who have a lot to share, people with good ideas and have a positive attitude. It really leaves an impression on me, at least. But yeah, if you guys like this episode, if you're here watching on YouTube, definitely subscribe and like the episode. And if you're on Facebook, feel free to click the like button and share this episode out and share it out if you thought this might have helped you out. But yeah, again, I appreciate your time here, Chris. I think everyone here definitely got some value out of this. So
this is great. Anytime I can help, anything I can do, I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, glad to be here. Thanks, John, for the invite.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, man.
See you, brother. Bye-bye.